on our website too as well. But anyways, just to sort of warm up the room and get things started, we're waiting for a few more people to arrive. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about what BVE Talk is at the moment. Yeah. So we have had this program. This is the 6th episode. We've had different talks about different things such as customer support, digital marketing, and tonight we're going to be delving into data science. Okay, oh, I forgot. One of the things that I'd like everyone to know. So we do have a Slido, which is a way to get audience participation with the panelists this evening. So this will be shared across on the chat group, and you can go ahead and click on it. So the benefit of the Slido is that at any point, if you have any questions or anything that you would like to ask the panelists, or ask the moderator, or ask me as your host, you're free to do that. So let's see. Can I ask if Shaylin could please share the link to the Slido onto the chat group, and also the particular hashtag code too as well. All right. So okay. All right. Let's give it a few more minutes. I think we're up to about 40 people so far. Okay. I'm kind of curious where everybody's coming from this evening. So once we get the Slido up, I think there's some ways that we can engage our audience and speak a little bit more. Yeah. Okay. So let's see. It's about 8:05 at the moment. I'm going to head and just get the beginning part of this started here while we wait. Yeah. Most of the early parts are just introduction material anyway. So let me rely on Vidi to advance the slide to the next slide first, and we'll talk a little bit more about the purpose of this event. Okay, so thank you everyone for coming in this evening. This is a very exciting event. It's a very, I think, extraordinary time, and we'll talk a little bit about why we're having this event. Our objective this evening is to delight as your host. So we want to invite industry experts here that speak on behalf of leading companies. And just as I said before, we're going to have a live Q&A. Normally webinars have their Q&As at the end of the session. We're going to have it live during the session. And as an audience, this allows you the ability to engage during the event. So the link has already been shared inside the chat group. It's Slido. And there's a code BV cross DSC for being able to look inside and participate. So we want our webinar to be different than most other webinars by making it more stimulating. So we have essentially a moderated panelist, and the moderator is basically in charge of stirring up interesting questions and also getting some cross-examinations to happen across the discussion. So hopefully that will engage us really well, and we'll be able to hear a lot of authentic truth come out of this particular discussion. So after the BVE talk ends, we want to invite whoever wants to remain in this particular chat room for a post-event huddle. Now, I understand some of the speakers might have other engagements, and of course the audience might have it too, but we kind of want to bring back that feeling of like a in-person event by giving the audience access and ability to approach the speakers or myself or the moderator or whoever else you might want to have a discussion with. So the event doesn't really end at the end of the event. It ends only after, I guess, we all go home. Okay. All right. So that is the objective. We want to delight. And on top of that, we also want to inspire. So part of our vision as a company here at Bukit Vista is we want to inspire delight. So we want to inspire young talent to innovate using technical skills to actually apply to real world problems. And we think that one of the best ways to do that is to actually bring in experts so that they can speak more about this. And we want experts to also share their most authentic moments with the next generation, so that this beautiful thing that we know can transmit and continue through history. And you know, we'll plug ourselves too as well. One of the reasons we're having this is that we have internship programs, And we want to also help our co-hosts this evening with DSC at UGM and also at UI with expanding their clubs as well. So those are our two primary missions. We want to inspire and we want to delight our names this evening, and of course our speakers as well. Okay, moving on to the next slide. We'll begin. So the format of this BVE talk is quite simple. We'll first start with introductions. We'll introduce ourselves and our co-hosts so that they have a chance to kind of tell everyone who they are. We'll then introduce the moderator, and the moderator will introduce the speaker. So that will happen relatively quickly. And the bulk of the event will be a moderated discussion with panelists. So this is where we go into depth and we ask our panelists deep questions about what they understand about data science for this evening. At the end of which we will have a closing and we will issue a survey. This is something that we would want to innovate over time, so we would absolutely appreciate your feedback so that we can find ways of making this event more better over each event. And then, as I said before, something to make our event a little bit more different and interesting, we're going to have a post-event huddle where members of the audience can approach the speakers or myself or the moderator to engage on more personal, intimate level. Okay, that's pretty much the format. And let's continue. Okay, so a little bit about myself. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Bukit Vista. And once upon a time, I studied as an engineer. I completed a bachelor's program at UC Berkeley back in 2002, which was about 18 years ago, in electrical engineering and computer science. So during the history of my career, I've worked at Airbnb, was one of the early market developers here in Indonesia. And yeah, it was very exciting building that community of both hosts and travelers to use the Airbnb platform. And before that, I worked at a luxury hotel resort called Aman that's actually quite inspirational and inspired my focus in hospitality, actually. So as a fun fact, for those that might know, I danced in a Bollywood movie once upon a time with Hrithik Roshan and Aishwarya Rai. So that's a little bit about me. Okay, and let's go to the next slide. So a little bit about the company and what Bukit Vista does. So our mission is to inspire delight through hospitality innovations that positively transform our guests, our partners, and our employees. And one of the reasons that we do BVE Talk is in accordance, in support of this mission. We think that this is a innovation to really think about ways of engaging in new forms of communication between experts and students. And we hope that this will be useful to positively transform for everybody, for experts to kind of find other experts in the area, find sort of common bonds, but also for students to learn more about the industry and what the real life practical applications are. Okay, all right, we'll go to the next slide. So this is just kind of a selection of what we look like as Bukit Vista. So we are basically a property management company, and we manage over 150 different unique properties all throughout Indonesia, primarily based here in Bali, with a selection of very interesting types of property. We have tree houses, we have cliff villas, we have these bamboo homes up in the hills in Ubud, and all different types of pretty aspirational properties for holiday visits. So if you think about Bali, think about Bukit Vista. Okay, next slide. All right, so I'm proud to announce that we have been collaborating with DSC, developer student clubs across Indonesia and across the region, and we think that this is a very exciting time. We've been following a lot of DSC's progress in terms of their achievements and I think incredible innovations that these clubs have been doing to forward software knowledge and wisdom and development in the student community. So we're very proud to state our partnership with DSC. And for the next bit, I'd like to turn over to some of the DSC reps from UI. So this will be going over to Mr. Dipta. Well, the floor is yours, Dipta. So please tell us about DSC at UI.
Okay, thank you, sir. First, I want to introduce myself. My name is Dipta Lasmana. I'm from UI, a computer science student. That's 2018. First, I want to thank you to Bukit Vista for giving these opportunities and also allowing this UI to join this collaboration. in this UE, we bring learn, share, and contribute concept. So the member is not only participating in our event joining a seminar or just sitting in there, but we want to make our member to contribute in our community, like being a speaker or something, and also uh, uh, to help that concept. We hold and even like project showcase, sharing session, and like that. Uh, that even we will use for like to show their capabilities of their project or their knowledge, and give sharing to our member in the COE. Maybe that is a little introduce for the COE for me. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Jita, for explaining also the wonderful programs over at DSC UI. Next, we have the other DSC club that we're collaborating with tonight, and this is DSC at UGM, Universitas Gadjah Mada. And so I'll be turning the floor over to Mario for a little bit more on that club and what they are doing at the moment.
Okay, thank you, sir. Hello, guys. I'm Mario Adriel, and I'm currently the lead of DSC UGM. Okay, DSC UGM is a community for the students who are interested in technology. Our mission is to learn, to connect, and to solve local problems with projects that we're having. And then this is our team. We have 8 passionate people who love to build a great community with me. And then I think it's a great opportunity to collaborate with Bukit Vista as well, because this is one of our biggest event, I think. Like we have great speakers. Okay, next slide. Okay, there are 2 kinds of event in the SUGM. First one, we have intensive class. This class is for the members. We have progressive and deeper topics, and another one is public seminar. This is aimed for the public one, so everyone can join. This one is more general topics, and I think that's all. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, Mario, for the introduction. Okay, for the rest of the program, I'm going to turn it over to our moderator for this evening, who works on our business intelligence team as a data scientist. Over to Vidiscu. All right.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Jing, for introducing me. Everyone, good evening. My name is Vidiscu, and I'm a data scientist from Bukit Vista. I graduated from Universitas Gadjah Mada on about last year. I was in batch 2016, and I worked in UGM as a lecturer, assistant lecturer in Center for Digital Society, working on different projects in the field of social politics. And I also did a lot of freelance projects, and that's how I got into Bukit Vista. A fun fact about me is that I went to Japan, and that was actually the first time I fell in love with data science, because in Japan, I joined a laboratory dealing mostly with facial image recognition. So that's a little bit about me, but I believe there are more important stuff here, which are the speakers. We have amazing panelists here, and let's try to have them introduce themselves, starting from Mr. Dean.
Hi everyone. Happy to be here. I'm Dean. I'm a data science lead in Google Singapore. So I graduated from NTU, Nanyang Technological University. My PhD is in the field of operation research. After I got my PhD, I worked for Apple, I worked for SAP, and before I joined Google, I was working for McKinsey as a data science consultant. So happy to share what I've learned on this journey. Maybe one fun fact about my data science journey is I actually, in SAP as a German company, we actually helped the German soccer team during the World Cup 2014 campaign. So basically, I can say I helped them to win the World Cup. And what is even better is I left before 2018, where they did really bad. So I'm kind of very happy I left at the right time.
Oh, that's amazing, Mr. Dean. That just shows how data science is implemented in different fields. Next, we move on to the next speaker, Mr. Robert. The floor is yours, sir.
Yep. Hello, everyone. I'm Robert, currently a data scientist at Bukalapak. I'm mainly responsible for the recommendation system team. So basically, if you go to the Bukalapak apps, and then there will be like several product suggest for you, and then they're basically my jobs, right? I graduated from Monash University on 2019. And previously, I worked as a research assistant at Monash University, the same with the one I studied for university. So mostly, I were mostly dealing with data science from academic point of view. So yeah, Bukalapak is my first professional experience as a data scientist. And yeah, happy to join this panel today and happy to share my experience to you guys.
Right. This is amazing. We will see different perspective from the academia point of view and also from industry point of view. Maybe one little fun fact about you, Mr. Robert, if you will.
If you really want, yeah. The fun fact about me, if you see my name, I don't have last name, so that's basically my fun fact.
Right. Thank you very much, sir. Okay, moving on to the next speaker, we have Miss Xiao Hong. Would you introduce yourself, Miss?
Hi everyone, my name is Xiao Hong. I'm working as a data scientist in GoJek. So I'm working in the cartography team. Basically, it's a team for the maps, the geometry, the maps in your GoJek app. Yeah, so I've been working on some of the NLP projects and some of the maps related projects in GoJek currently. Yeah, and I graduate in NTU. For bachelor, then I currently studying the master in UI/UC. Yeah, previously I have been working with GIC and Deutsche Bank. Maybe a not fun fact, a boring fact about me. I was not originally from the tech industry or the data science field, but I did a career switch in between. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Actually, that will be an interesting topic to discuss later on. But I would like to personally thank you, Ms. Xiao Hong. I personally use GoJek a lot, and I believe a lot of students here actually use GoJek. And yeah, that's actually really amazing. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to the next speaker, we have Mr. Steven here. Would you introduce yourself, Mr. Steven?
Hi everyone, my name is Steven. I work as a data scientist right now in BitHealth, and I also help as a data scientist mentor in Supertype. I went to my master's degree at the University of Edinburgh, Scotland. Prior to working in BitHealth, I worked in Tokopedia as a data scientist too. Right now, mostly I handle a lot more about like integration with data pipelines and also some implementation of data science project. One fun fact about me that is not so related to data, I actually been on a bus on a fire, like literally I was in the bus and it was on fire and I survived that. Yeah.
Right. That's amazing fun fact actually. Yep. All these speakers come from companies that you guys have heard of course. They are amazing speakers, and of course we will just move right ahead because we can't wait to go into the next discussion, to the first discussion. So just to remind everybody here, we have a website where we can collect all your questions in slide.do and enter the code BVXDSC. With this, we can collect all your questions, and basically we will talk about the things that you really want to know about. So that's what's different about this particular seminar, because we went to a lot of seminars during this pandemic, unfortunately, and maybe they discuss about things that are repetitive or things that you guys already know. But this time, you guys can just collect your questions in slide.do with the code BVXDSC. But before that, while we're waiting for the questions to be generated and from you guys, we'll start with one topic that is proposed by Bukit Vista. As the first topic, we have, what problem are you trying to solve with data science? What type of models best match to problems you're trying to solve? Maybe we'll start with Mr. Robert to answer this question.
Yeah, thank you, Fidisku. Yeah, maybe I will talk a bit about my experience at Bukalapak because I'm mainly responsible for the recommendation system team, right? So recommendation system is basically a huge topic, and it's kind of like we cannot generalize into one single model, right? Because we have different style of recommendation. So one of the example I can give you is, let's say I want to create a model for trending recommendation, which I try to recommend product like the trending product to the customer. So for that case, I don't really need a machine learning model. Basically, I only need like simple statistical method to quantify the score of trending of a single product, right? But if we want to, like, let's say recommend a product to the user based on the user behavior, right? Usually we will start with the most simplest one, which is the matrix factorization, right? And then, but often the case, the problem with matrix factorization is that we cannot handle data is that too sparse, right? Too sparse meaning that there's like some product that not being transacted by many users, or there's user that only, let's say, buy once from the marketplace, right? So, but currently in Bukalapak, we try to leverage this model, right? We try to move from the traditional method to matrix factorization, but we try to integrate the recommendation system team with natural language processing. So for your information, like before I joined Bukalapak, my background was NLP. So basically, if you see the user behavior in the sequence, like let's say one user see one product, and then after that the user see the next product. So basically, that's kind of a sequence, right? And basically, the sentence also a sequence of words, right? So basically, in recommendation system, we can apply natural language processing or even graphs to the problem. So that's basically currently that we are trying to working on. Yeah, there are many other problems in recommendation system. Let's say usually we need to do like some kinds of product clustering before we really build the recommendation system. Yeah, so but in general, that's kind of how we recommendation system work in Bukalapak.
Yeah, that's actually interesting, sir, because actually in Bukit Vista, I was fortunate enough to meet with Mr. Slavik Smil, which is the winner of the M4 competition. And in his model in which competition he won, he actually also mentioned that he tried using a more simple model and then attach it to a more complex model to achieve better results. Is this kind of model the new trend right now? Because people usually think of models just, especially in academia, or because I was just an undergraduate student recently. We use complex model, just one model, but he mentioned that you can actually combine models together, and usually they combine simple and more complex model. What do you think, sir?
Yeah, I agree with that kind of statement because in recommendation system, we call this as a hybrid method, meaning that we try to combine multiple methods into one single model and then to achieve better results, right? Because there's no one single method that can work perfectly to solve all problems, right?
Yes.
Let's say why we need to apply product clustering, because if we focus on the level of product, let's say in this case, it's kind of hard to recommend the product to the customer because different seller might sell the same product, right? So in that case, we need to do some kind of product clustering before we go to the recommendation system team. So that's basically kind of answer your question. Yeah, in industry, we are not that straightforward like in the academia. Because usually in academia, we try, okay, I have this model, and then I will try to make the best accuracy, right? But in industry, we often the case we will try multiple models and try to combine them for solving the problem.
Yeah. Maybe we would like to hear from Michelle, who also dealt with NLP before. What do you think about this kind of approach, Michelle?
With like, for me, normally I will try with like a simple baseline models that is not very complex, requires so many resources, and see how it works, how it goes, and then if maybe you can, if there's any issues with it, you can investigate or do the data tuition or whatever. Then later on, you can like move on to the complex model if the complex model can add on. And of course, you can do all the ensemble models because ensemble of different models, because different models will bring different like aspects. Different models, different strengths.
In the kind of problem you're trying to solve right now, is this method applicable, or are there any kind of other variation you're using in your particular kind of problem, Michelle?
For my probably I can talk about one of projects I have recently completed, which is like which is to like generate pickup points with the names. Like when you GoJek apps, when you call a car, then they suggest your nearby pickup points. Then how do you so if you have more nearby points, pickup points suggested to you, you will have better customer experience. Then how do we have a lot of pickup points, like we automatically generate all the pickup points with names in scale. Yeah, so we use based on our bookings from historical bookings from GoJek and the chat logs between our customers and the drivers. So from the bookings, then you can mine, you can do clustering, then you can find the best pickup points, location, latitude and longitude. Then from the chat logs, then you can do some NLP to mine the most suitable pickup point names. Yeah. So for the clustering, it's a kind of simple clustering. We use k-means. We evaluate different kind of clustering method like DB scan, HDB scan, and we choose k-means for our case. Then for the NLP part, for mining the pickup point names, initially we go like kind of just simple ones like TF-IDF and all these. Yeah, and we based on some heuristics rules, like a rule-based one, add some on top of the rules. But it's not giving us like the full skill to automatically inject without manual intervention, without manual validation. Yeah, the accuracy is not that high yet. So then we try the kind of SOTA NLP model, the transformer based, like the BERT style model. So because for Indonesia Bahasa, at that time, we don't have the pure Indonesia Bahasa pre-trained models for BERT, Albert, or whatever. Yeah, so what I did is I used GoJek's historical chat logs to pre-train an album model based on the GoJek's chats only. Yeah, then from that, we do all the kind of a token class, like one sentence, the customer and the driver chat. From that sentence, we do kind of a token classification problems to identify the pickup point names. So customer maybe see Jaipur Saya, Depan, hotel lobby, or whatever thing. So we do kind of a whole token classification. So the hotel lobby will be labeled as 1 for us as a potential pickup point name. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that research that you did in both GoJek and also to analyze Bahasa Indonesia will be quite useful for, very useful for students here. Please listen to this carefully. Maybe this could be one of the things that inspires your thesis topic. Maybe next to Mr. Robert, what do you think about this question, sir? What are you trying to solve right now, and what's the approach you're trying right now? Oh, sorry.
So yeah,
Mr.
you're asking the
Steven,
same
I
question.
lost track. Sorry, Mr. Steven. Yep, a data scientist got nervous in the talk. I think
It's okay.
allow it. Yeah. What about Mr. Steven? What do you think, sir?
Yeah. So actually, for my side, one problem that I can share is actually we work for skin disease imaging. So like chicken pox, kind of, like there's a lot of familiar kind of disease, and then we try to make classification out of them, just to be like like a preliminary analysis before you come to the doctors, right? Because sometimes, like as an Indonesian, I think a lot of people are like, okay, I might have like a small allergic reaction, and you're thinking like, oh, I got a chicken pox. A lot of people are very like like very worried about the situation, right? So we have this idea of like, okay, let's try to make something small just to help pre-analyze it, right? And then to solve that, we try some like start from simpler approach, like use just a computer vision, just like some like filtering, and then like a bunch of stuff, but it didn't turns out quite well. And then we move on to deep learning projects, and I think in the end we settled for a mobile net version of the pre-trained model, and then we train and we upgraded some of the layers in there. But I think in general, yeah, I think I'm agree with Michelle Hong approach on like we start from something very simple, right? Even what some people might not say as machine learning, right? It's just like some like traditional programming, right? And then we move on to something more complex as the demands needs to, because like I think we end up training a model for a whole week just to get like acceptable result for that, which is a very intensive, right? So yeah.
See, yeah. I think that's the general approach that industry are doing right now, right? But what do you think, Mr. Dean? Do you agree with all the panelists here?
Yes, I do agree with all of them. I personally like simple things. So if we can solve a problem with a simple model, I would rather using simple way to do it. But I think there are actually, besides the technical lens to look at like data science and modeling, and related to this question, I think there are two aspects that we need to consider as well. One is the business aspect, like instead of what problem are we solving, how are we solving that? I think a more fundamental question is why are we solving this problem? So for me, I work in, let's say, ads targeting for Google business. So for different clients, they have different, although they try to solve this targeting problem, but there can be different motivation in the backend. Like for some of them, they are trying to target better customer, meaning that they want to target higher value customer. Then we need to identify a model to build a model to identify the better value customer. Then some of them, when they say that they want to attract a better customer, it's basically they want to analyze their creatives, let's say videos and the images, if they are suitable to be recognized by the potential customer. Then the analyze we will do is to analyze if their video is effective enough. So behind the problem itself, there's always a motivation that relates to how can we solve it. Another aspect is what are the data we have in solving this problem. So I think now if the data is what we call it a more dense data, like image or video data, that is very suitable for this kind of deep learning or CNN type of models, then why not? We can use pre-trained model to do generate insights. But if it is like scarce data, like categorical data, those models will not work so well. So we need to find other ways, either use a simpler model or use a hybrid wide and deep model to solve this. So I think although it may be the same problem, but it actually depends on the commercial motivation and also the data availability for us to choose the approach to solve that.
Yeah, so yeah, it's kind of like a cost function, right? Where you determine your objective and you develop the most optimal way to solve the problem, I think. Yep, I think the answers by all the speakers are absolutely amazing. And moving on, because we have limited time, we will move on to the next question. I think the second topic is proposed by DSC UI, Universitas Indonesia. How important is data science in an early stage startup with very few customers? I believe a lot of my friends actually are starting startups for some reason, and they kind of like called me and just asked questions, and we discussed together about the data that they should collect. They're trying to build this firm foundation, but at some point when I talk to them, I feel like the topic that they brought up is quite advanced. But maybe from a professional point of view, I would like to hear maybe from Mr. Dean first. Like, what do you think about this kind of concept? People are starting startups everywhere, and they wanted to have a data science team. What do you think, sir?
I would say with few customers, if it is like, so if the priority of the startup is not to really scale up, but to build a solid foundation of customers, I'd rather put my effort in providing better service to this group of people rather than scaling it up. But if it is in the stage that we want to scale up, of course, data science can give you a lot of insights and directions where and how to scale your business up. I think I would rather say data would be more important to startups than data science is more important to startups, because for a lot of like startup in the late stage, when I talk to them, one thing they regretted they didn't do is to collect data from the beginning, because that is where they know who will be interested in their service or product in the first hand, like without any marketing geeks. These people will be the natural people passionate about this kind of business. So that's actually very important information. Another example I can relate it, it's maybe way beyond a startup, is when I worked for Apple, one thing that amazed me is that Steve Jobs actually started to collect the social media data in the early, like I think around the era of like 2004 or 05. That is merely some internet data, but they started to collect whatever they can collect from the internet. Then what we use it for is that when we want to build a demand forecasting model, let's say for iPhone or for the later generation of MacBook, we can actually refer to the early stage to see like what are the demand correlated to like social media response or news mentions. That's actually very useful information for us to derive certain patterns out of it. So I think when we say data science would be very important to startups, for me, it more relates to how do you collect data, how do you organize the data, and how do you have an idea how to use data to make decisions.
I see. Yeah, that's actually very enlightening. And I believe this relates to a question that I would like to ask to Michelle Hong. Maybe you've heard from stories from the founders of GoJek or your colleagues about the initial start of data science in GoJek, because right now data science, being a data scientist in GoJek is very prestigious. Maybe a lot of students here would like to become a data science at the company that all the speakers here are working at. But has it always been like this since the beginning, Michelle Hong?
I didn't join GoJek really in the early days, but I believe like 10 years back when GoJek just started up, I think it should be more like engineering focused first, like similar to other like early startups, like when you have so many low hanging fruits that you need to solve first, then probably you solve all your low hanging fruits first. Yeah, get all your surveys or whatever engineering stuff, infrastructure ready. Then the data science will be the value added part that you can focus on later once you have a foundation. Yeah.
Yeah, so you agree to Mr. Dean's comment on data first, then data scientist later, right? Then maybe I would like to ask Mr. Stephen next. What do you think, sir, especially in BitHealth?
Right. I think I would totally agree with what the other speakers are saying. I have the experience to work in one of the tech company like Tokopedia, and now I'm working with some of my clients are like traditional corporate stuff, right? And actually, both of them have the same problem, which is like they have a bad kind of design in terms of like what data to store and how to actually transfer there. So like in essence, I think like as a startup, I think it would be better to have like a more robust system to be able to to collect your data, to pull your data source from, and be able to like track all of the important matrices do you want to do in your business, right? And after that, only with the good data you can only have a good data science project, right? Because in the end you can have like a very advanced model, but if your data is insufficient or bad, it won't be any good analysis at all.
I see. Yeah, I completely agree, because in Bukit Vista, we had this conundrum, right? We wanted to build a model that could solve a particular problem, but initially I was a freelancer in Bukit Vista, and then I looked at the data and I found myself thinking, thinking back, is it ready for like to have a data science department? And then after discussing with many professionals, I received a lot of insights regarding this concept of pre-processing 80%, then building the model 20%. It's a very important concept because we need the data first, as all the speakers that have answered before. Maybe next to Mr. Robert next. And what do you think, sir, about this question?
Yeah, I think most of the speaker have covered like most of the question, right? So maybe I will add a few from my side, right? I think the first thing is it's case by case, right? Depending on the business of the startup, right? I mean, nowadays there are a lot of startups, they are focusing on giving consulting for the other company,
yep.
Right? Then in that case, if your startup product is related to data, then you might need data science in the beginning, right? Mm-hmm. But if the business is not in that field, then maybe the more important thing to do is to build the data infrastructure for the data acquisition first, right? Yeah. And this is like, I agree with what Tim mentioned, right? Data acquisition is the first thing that we need to consider when we want to scale up, right? What I can say to the audience is, in Bukalapak, we start collecting the data in the early days, right? But we didn't create any models. And the first model we create like around like 3 or 4 years ago. And the first model we create from those, we collect data almost 10 years, is worth like 50 billion rupees, right? And you can imagine if we didn't collect the data from the early days, then that kind of model won't be exist until now, right? Because we use the historical data to build the recommendation, the first recommendation system we have in Bukalapak. And it gives 50 billion gross market value, GMV, to the company, right? So that's kind of like, we need to think about how we want to build the data team in the startup. If we really want to scale up, then the foundation, which is the data, needs to be ready in the first place. I think that's from my side.
Oh yeah, actually, I maybe this is one of the question that a lot of data scientists will trying to build model are thinking. Maybe quick answer from each of the speakers. How many data is enough? Right? This is one question that all data scientists ask. How many records, how many data, how many fields do you think is enough? Maybe start from Mr. Robert first.
I think this question is similar to how much money is enough, right?
Okay.
It's like,
right.
The more data you have, the better you will get the result. The better model you generate, right? The better insight you will generate for the company, for the organization you are in, right? So I think, yeah, there's a term in data science like how big is big, right?
Yep.
Like in the data industry, we call how big is big, right? Often the case we said like, okay, we don't have enough data to make this model, but then what is kind of the threshold, right? We don't have that kind of threshold in the industry. So I think, yeah, back to the first statement is, this is the similar to how much money is enough. So yeah.
So you don't have like a quantitative value you would like to state.
Yeah, the more you have, the better it is.
The more data, the better. Maybe Mr. Steven could provide us with like a little insight on the numbers itself. What do you think, Mr. Steven?
I mean, I think I'm on the same side as Robert. Like it's always been better to have more data than don't have enough data, because like in the end, like when people say that data is the new oil, right? Like it's actually kind of true in the sense that it kind of fuel everything, right? So it's better to have more fuel that don't have enough fuel to move on, right? Imagine if you want to do some analysis on your customer, right? But you only have their names, right? And so what could you do with their names? Nothing. But now you have their date of birth and you have their gender, they have their location. Now you can do tons of stuff, right? So it's always never been enough, right? The limit is only like, what is your company resource on storing them and capturing them? I think that's the limit.
I see. But maybe, do you have like a minimum, like a number? Is there a magic number basically in data science, the number of minimum data that we should have?
I don't think there's a magic number, right? I think like it really depends on the project. Like some project does require like a small amount of numbers. Some project would be big. It also depends on your model, right? Like generally, if we're talking about deep learning based model, you know, you will need tons of data for that. But like, you know, in like some of the cases like computer vision, right? You can make some like traditional filters only using like 10 images. That would be enough, right? And it actually goes into the industry, like factories in the 2090s, they're using that kind of filter in computer vision, right? So you know, there's not really a numbers. It really depends on your projects, really.
I see. Yeah. Then maybe next to Mr. Dean, you mentioned a little bit about transfer learning just now, because it is one of methods that we use to like deal with a small data set. But maybe you have like an insight on the quantity of data that we should have basically to start a model.
It won't be really a data science. Maybe it's marginally a data science problem. If we take statistics also as data science, I think if we are doing a survey-based research, then 1,000 people would be the minimum you can draw some significant results from any questionnaire, right? So if you want to send out any questionnaire to just to find out what is a consumer behavior, so I think for 1,000 customers is a minimum you need to hit to get insights that is significant enough. But just for the sake of having this webinar and show that we don't really always agree with each other, I wouldn't say that we always, the data is the more the better, because data also comes in with the price, right? So if you want to collect and store more data, there is a cost associated to that. when we want to collect the data or even begin to collect the data, I would rather ask the right question first, like, why do you need this data? So when I work for McKinsey, I think 80% of the time, the client asks us to, like, we have so many data, please do something about it. And when we analyze it, there's always some missing part of the data is not that useful. And we actually spend 80% of the time to encourage the customer to ask the right question. Like, no, this is not some question we can solve. You change another question and we can be helpful for you. So we spend a lot of time to stimulate them, ask the right question. And we may find out to answer that question, actually maybe 20% of their data is enough. So they don't really need to collect a lot of data for that question. So in that sense, if you have a clear business idea upfront, or you have an objective upfront, you can collect the relevant data to solve that. And you don't need to spend a lot of money and effort just for the like bump up a big data set and don't know what to do with it.
I see. Thank you, Mr. Dean. I feel like Avengers Civil War is starting right now, but maybe we'll go to Ms. Xiaohong. Maybe Ms. Xiaohong, which side do you choose?
I think both sides got their rationales behind. I do agree with both sides. Yeah. Sometimes, yeah, for the case for your particular projects, you know what you are doing, then the more training data definitely the better. But for the overall organization level, when you like store data, then probably you should do some proper designing and planning to return the most useful part. Yeah. Yeah, then for your question about how much data, then probably I can share for my previous projects with the Albert model that when we do the fine tuning, because it's a transfer learning from pre-trained model. So when we do the fine tuning, we take about tens of thousands of label training data. And yeah, it do give us very good accuracy. Yeah, so, and yeah, it really depends on your models and your projects. Like if very large pre-trained models, like in terms of NLP, like GTP3, you only give 2 sample label data, then probably they can predict for you already. Yeah, so it really depends. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, that's the answers from our speakers. I believe both answers have strong reasoning behind them. And I believe that a lot of the audience here are excited for the next question, actually, and we learned a lot from the last question. So to the next question, actually, this is actually a fun topic because we've been discussing serious topic before. Let's just ask fun questions, maybe to each of the panelists. Flex for us. Tell us why you think your company does the data science better than anybody else. This is a friendly flex, right? Just for disclaimer. Starting from Mr. Dean, let's say.
Well, I believe Google is the company with the most number of data scientists in the world. We hire more data scientists than all the other companies, maybe even combined. So, so I say so because data science means a lot of things to Google. Like we have a core research team, Google Brain or DeepMind, that doing the cutting edge research type of data scientists. We also have a huge engineering and product team to build this kind of data science research into some product that people like us can use. I'm kind of like sad we're using Zoom instead of Google Hangout for this event because I believe that's a better product. And actually there's another layer, like we also have a lot of data scientists and engineers trying to provide the data science as a service to our users, to our customers as well. Like I said, we help our ads customer to do better customer identification or to do better like targeting. So all these 3 layers of data scientists are data scientists in Google, and we have an army for each of them. So I believe that we have a lot of data scientists than other companies.
Right, thank you very much. That's one from Google. Now let's hear from Bukalapak. Tell us why do you think your company have a better data science department, basically?
Yeah, first of all, I believe Google, GoJek, and BitHealth have done their a great job in their field, right? And I mean, in Bukalapak, what we are trying to leverage is our impact to increase the growth of the company, and at the same time to empower our seller and buyers, right? And for your information, most of our sellers are the small medium enterprise in Indonesia, which is the key point of the economy in Indonesia, right? And that's what makes us as a data scientist in Bukalapak like kind of proud of ourselves, because we give value to other people, right? And I don't know in other company, but in Bukalapak, data is one of our core values, right? But however, I would rather not to compare like how good a company does data science better than the others, right? I mean, every single company has their own problem and challenge to face, right, to solve, right? And I think it would be better to think about how we could collaborate each other and like kind of empower and bring this community together. Like, I think that's the more important things to think of.
Yep, and that's a very diplomatic answer from Bukalapak.
Yeah, you know, you are facing Google.
Okay, maybe next to Mr. Steven from BitHealth.
Right. I mean, I won't be able to compete with Google. I think nobody in here just want to compete with Google. So I think like what BitHealth do that is quite like a bit better. I don't know if it's better, right? But I think what we do quite well in the data science space is like we actually work with like old people. I mean, like when we're talking about old people, it's like think like your dad and mom generation kind of people that still like they use Excel for daily life, and even like it's only for viewing the data. So it's really hard to work with these people. I think like what BitHealth able to do is like we're able to kind of talk with them in the more like, okay, how can we bring technology to their side, right? Because I think most of this company you're working with all of the really like educated tech savvy people, even on your business unit, right? But like for most of the client, like think like the 50s kind of like people that works like like I mentioned before, they don't even use Excel. Sometimes they just use notebooks to note things out, and then they just in the meeting they don't even use kind of like like words and everything, like even like Google Docs, like tools just to like, okay, we can't type in the same file together at the same time. They're not even using that. So I think that's one of the things that we kind of do a bit different and a bit good at it.
All right. That's a one emotional attack, right? Think of your mom and dad from BitHealth. Maybe finally, last but not least, from Miss Xiao Hong from GoJek. What have you got for us?
Yeah, maybe I will talk from slightly different angle for this. Like, I would like to talk about culture and the meaning, right? So, so for in GoJek, we really have very good culture. We have like a lot of bottom-up initiatives. Like all the data scientists, they can propose their own projects that they want to do that benefit the business. And actually, a fair amount of the projects plans are coming from bottom-up initiatives. Yeah. And we are not like those kind of tech firms that have those kind of 996 kind of culture, right? We are very we are very we are very friendly in GoJek. We play Dota together with our CEO and all this. Yeah. And another thing very specific to GoJek, actually all the data science work you do directly translate to very meaningful kind of work, right? Like current COVID situations, all the engineers and the data scientists from Go Food, Go Merchants, they contribute a lot to help all the Indonesian merchants to like quickly go up to online to adapt to the situations. And even from our teams, like we think of different ways to help the driver partners to like earn extra income during this kind of situations. Yeah, so all your data science work is really very meaningful. Yeah, so yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Miss Xiao Hong. If this were an offline event, I would like ask everybody to clap hands because all your answers are very like amazing. They bring different values, and also like just like what Miss Robert said. I think what we focus more is how we collaborate as data scientists together. And that's a fun little question. Maybe we'll go to the next question by Developer Student Club in UI again. How does data science boost or startups performance? Maybe we'll start with Mr. Steven.
Okay, it's quite tough. So like I think there's a lot of way. Like I don't think like I think generally I would answer it not with a data science, but with data in general, right? Because like when we're talking about science, some people think about like machine learning, deep learning, right? But I think in general, like, data science also encompasses what you can like analysis, right? Just knowing like how your company performs, it is a very good thing. Like even to startup, like sometimes in startup, you keep growing and scaling that you don't know what actually happened with your business, right? You just spend money on ads, and then you try to acquire a new customer, you try to branch out to new product, but you don't know how they perform, right? I think that's like the biggest point of data science in startup, right? To actually be able to see, right, how you grow and like how all the activities in the company in your business are doing. Yeah.
I see. Yeah, but actually, it's really interesting when a business grows. People will have difficulty looking at the amount of data, but with data science, sometimes there are difficulties, especially where in data science to convince non-data scientists on the decisions that you might have made. What do you think, Mr. Steven? Like, how do you deal with this kind of situation?
Right. I think like the easiest answer to this is like you try to put yourself in that spot, right? Like you try to understand why they are not believing in this data, right? I think like a great way to this is there's no like silver bullet to answer all of this, but it's more like understanding what their point of view is, and then like trying to see how can you coming from their point of view to reach what you want to deliver to them, right? Because sometimes it's actually just a misunderstanding of like, okay, they have this perception, like some guys have done marketing for like 20 years, right? And then they believe their gut rather than the data they have, right? So you need to show them sometimes how the process are, like this is what actually happening, this is like this might be a bit different from what you know, right? And I think you need to communicate clearly. Like that's why like I think a lot of the values in data science is it's very important to know like the concept of white box and black box model, right? Sometimes it's easier just to convince people with a white box model, which is sometimes going to be a lot simpler but bring a lot more value, right?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, I think that's for the audience. Maybe Mr. Robert can kind of like explain a little bit about what is white box and what is black box. And as someone who came from academia, how do you convince people in industry to like believe in your data?
Yeah, sure. I think I will answer the main question first, right? Because
Yep.
it's kind of interesting too. I think how data science can boost a startup, like there's many ways to go with, right? And if we want really to discuss all the ways, then we don't have enough time to do that, right? But let's make it simple, right? I think in general, there are two main things that data science can do for the startup. The first thing is how we use data science to improve our product. And the second is how we use data science to take a better decision, right? So the first one is from the product side, and the second one is from us as a human, right? Yep. And then from the product side, like in Bukalapak, there are many ways we can do. Like the first one is automation. Right? Automation means that, let's say one of the examples is we try to detect like blacklist product using image recognition. So that's kind of like one way we go. And by using that kind of model, we save a lot of time. We save a lot of manpower, right? And then like optimization, like often the time we have the data, right? We try to find, the second one is optimization, and then we try to find how we could optimize the existing model or how we could optimize the existing solution, right? So one of the example, but like give a huge impact is like if we, let's say in the apps, the position of a particular slot, if even we only shift it like one step, go to the top, then it gives different value, right? Let's say in the case of recommendation system, the different place we put the recommendation, the different value it will bring to the company, right? Yeah. And then the third one that we always do in Bukalapak is experiments. And if you like, I think most of the audience know about the A/B testing, right? We always try to prove our assumption, our hypothesis, right? Then by doing that kind of experiment, and then the data will tell us which one is better, and then this kind of scale and help us to grow the startup, right? And then the second one is how we could use data science to take the better decision. And I think in here we're talking about insight, right? We have the data, But if we don't process the data, if we don't like try to extract insight from the data, then the data is just data, nothing else, right? So we always we have like especially in Bukalapak, we have like kind of like insight showtime or something like that. So every data science, they can bring their insight to the stakeholder. Like, okay, I find this in this data, and then this kind of will give this amount of impact if we do this, right? So even that's not a model, but basically this kind of data analysis, but some not often the time it will give a quite good value to the business, right?
Right.
And yeah, I think I kind of answered your question, right?
Yep, of course. Thank you very much, Mr. Robert. Maybe next to Mr. Dean, what do you think about this question? How could data science boost startups' performance?
So maybe I can answer this question in a slightly different angle. So I think a startup's performance ultimately is to get investment, right?
Yep.
There are actually investment company using data science to choose which startup to invest, meaning that they will take the startups, let's say, areas of service, number of people, tech infrastructure, all this information, and quantify them in a data science model and see which of them will have the highest potential to be successful in the future. So I think in that sense, a startup would be successful, or its performance will exceed if they can crack this type of models as well, like to analyze what are the area as a startup they should invest in, whether they should hire more of service people, sales people, or tech people, and how to grow this business more organically based on the historical startups experience. So I think that angle would be quite useful for some of the startups.
Yeah, this kind of angle is very interesting, and this kind of angle is, I think, for me myself, I haven't thought about cracking the model that is used on me, basically. But this kind of angle is, I think, is very useful and eye-opening for a lot of our viewers. Next, maybe to Ms. Xiaohong, what do you think about all the panelists' answer, or do you have a different answer on your own?
Yeah, I do agree with all the panelists. Yeah, so like how does data science help out? Like for in the context of GoJek, like we have a lot of data science applications. Yeah, behind all the super app you see, like all the food recommendations or the ride matchings and the pricing and all this. Yeah, we do see a significant improvements with all the data science and machine learning models for this, like on our like core metrics, like the booking conversion rate or whatever. When we do the A/B testing, as the machine learning models do see a significant improvements as compared to the like control groups also. Yeah, and like apart from GoJek, I mean many other apps that you do also, you can have this kind of experience like TikToks, like right, you thought you browse TikTok for 5 minutes, actually you browse TikTok for 3 hours. Yeah, how you can be so addicted to TikTok, it's really because of the super powerful recommendation like data science systems behind it. Yeah, I do think data science can add value a lot. Yeah.
Right. Amazing answers as usual from our panelists. Thank you very much for answering. Maybe we'll move on to the next question, which is the audience topic. Here I have with me several questions that the audience have picked, actually. I will just choose one or two of them. The audience actually put a thumbs up on the question so that we know that it is the question that the audience actually want to hear. So starting from the most thumbed up question, the deployability of a model is an important aspect of a data science cycle. How would you recommend the speakers learning this with limited resource? Maybe we'll start with Mr. Dean. What do you think about this question? The deployability of the model and how to learn about this process.
Actually, I think there are more courses on the, let's say, the different educational platforms on this one. I personally, I was actually learning end-to-end machine learning pipeline, something architect to something on Coursera. So I think that's a really relevant course. I think the difficult part is that on what platform you talk about the deployability. Like if it is on GCP, there's definitely resource available on Google's website or on Coursera. But if you want to learn more general deployability, that would be more like a computer or architectural type of problem rather than a data science problem, because it is not just to use data science to solve the problem, it's to build a pipeline and provide the services. I would say, although it is important, but I personally feel it is a fringe topic in data science. So I usually say that there are different roles in data science, or in the broader sense of data science, right? So there are data scientists, there are data engineer, there's also machine learning engineer who build up the pipeline. So this one, I believe it is more towards machine learning engineer type of work. And if you are determined to do that, there should be some resources available on internet as well.
I see. Yeah, I believe when I saw this question, somewhat I believe that there are a lot of resources in the internet. Would the panelists agree with me in this case? Yeah, because I believe there are a lot of resources here, maybe based on Mr. Dean's answer to people who thumbed up this question, you could search in Google, of course. Next, then also, I think this is a very interesting topic, right? Since the pandemic, a lot of my friends in LinkedIn are taking like data science courses. Friends from biology, friends from social politics, they're taking this data science course from TensorFlow or Google. As a non-STEM student, how hard is it to get into data science industry? I believe all the panelists here are coming from STEM background, but just now Ms. Xiao Hong mentioned that she actually switched careers. But maybe I would like to hear from all the panelists here. As a non-STEM student, how hard is it to get into the data science industry? Maybe let's start from Ms. Xiao Hong first.
Yeah, so in GoJek, we of course academic background is a good plus point, but we don't really look at academic background only itself. Sometimes it's your passion that matters, right? Sometimes, like, even if you don't find this background, but your passion, you like to learn all these kind of things, and you participate in all this cargo stuff, like competition stuff, you get to some extent your hands-on the data science projects, right? And yeah, so that can build up your experience, although you are not from the STEM backgrounds. Yeah, and also sometimes it's your potential, your skills to learn fast, you're able to communicate, work in a team, that matters as well.
Yeah, maybe just now you mentioned that you kind of like switch careers or paths. Would you like to tell us a little bit more about that, Ms. Xiao Hong?
Yeah, sure. But I'm also from engineering background. So yeah, so I was initially not with tech industry and data science field. I was originally joined the financial industry. But I joined the technology department, but it's more of a business analyst kind of role. Yeah. So Deutsche Bank, I joined as a graduate program. Then GIC, I work in the risk application, like market risk, credit risk, the business analyst for those risk applications. Yeah, then I like just daily read up the news. I noticed like the future is about the artificial intelligence, data science. So I decided to like take up some Coursera courses and also like my master studies in this field. Yeah, so then I decided to make a career switch into this field.
I see. That's actually interesting. What about you, Mr. Stephen? In your journey, have you met people who came from a non-STEM background but actually got into data science? And what are your impressions on them? And maybe there are things that we can learn from their experience too.
I am met some. I mean, I'm gonna admit that most of the friends that I know actually come from STEM background.
Yep, I think we lost Mr. Stephen there. And let's see. While waiting for Mr. Stephen to get back to us, maybe we could.
Actually, one of my team come from a geophysics, which kind of doesn't have any code. A lot of like, you know. Hello.
Oh yes, sir. Stephen, we actually, Mr. Stephen, we actually lost you there. Could you please repeat a little bit?
Yep. Okay. So I was mentioning about like I think like most of the people that does data science actually come from STEM background, right? But that's not all of them. Like some of them actually come from non-STEM background. Even from those who do come from STEM background, they actually have a very little like correlation with the data science itself. Like one of my team members come from geophysics, which basically study about rocks, right? There's almost no correlation at all between the rocks and the data science job that he does on a daily basis, right? But I think what drive him was he actually take a boot camp and like he takes an online course and all of that actually boosts his skill up. So I think generally it's a bit more for your motivation learning them, like what Ms. Xiaohong mentioned. There's so many resources out there for you to learn, right? Even like for my background, I actually have like on my bachelor years, I actually have so little courses that actually study about data science, but I think most of the skills I pick up from like articles and online courses. Yeah.
I see. So yeah, that's actually an interesting perspective. Yeah, I think I also have a friend from biophysics that also got into data science and also programming. But maybe from Mr. Dean, you have a lot of colleagues around the world. Do you think there are specific like traits or personality that comes from a non-STEM background student that could also be adopted as a non-STEM student or maybe as a STEM student?
In my tendency, when we started to hire data scientists, I hired people from all kinds of backgrounds. So there are people from economics background, which may be marginally related to STEM. There are people actually from an English major, and she is like a purely self-taught programmer and was a proper data scientist. So we actually hired her. So I don't think anything stops anyone from like learning new things and going to the public sources to learn this kind of thing. But it is like how much effort you want to put in to change the track and like to make use of the next few months or years in this area. But I do believe that the data science industry is growing. Like we don't really only need programmers or mathematicians. We need people to do other kind of job in data science. One thing I can think of is that we need someone who can translate the value of data science to some subject matter or like industrial insights. Because the model is a model, we need to have someone to translate the result of the model into some business impact. So for that one, I think a lot of people will actually need people from business background to maybe know about data science, then create value out of it. So I don't think that one, actually a non-STEM background may be actually better in that sense because you can offer an outside view to see what is more relevant to the business itself.
I see. Yeah, I think that's actually very inspiring for maybe our audiences that are coming from a non-STEM background. So yeah, that's a motivation from our speakers for you guys for from non-STEM background, and I hope that motivates you guys to learn and delve into the world of data science, and perhaps you will fall in love to data science just like the way I do, or the way I did, basically. And I believe somehow we lost Mr. Robert in the call. Could anyone confirm that? Yeah, I believe we lost Mr. Robert in the call. Yeah, I think maybe we will move on to the. Thank you for very much for the audience for submitting the topics. All of these topics are really interesting, but unfortunately we have a limited time to answer all of the questions. But maybe in after the meeting we can discuss some of these topics after the event. Maybe to the next and final fifth topic. This is a question that is interesting. What can't be done with data science? Maybe we will start with Michelle Ho.
Yeah, so for this, like I would say like some problems are just not data science problems. Maybe it's more of a computer science or algorithm kind of problems. So these kind of problems cannot be done by data science. Probably I give an example for my team. So we do the maps for the GoJek, which is kind of, we do the routings. Like the routing itself is not really a data science problems where you give 2 points, then you use a neural network to give you a route. Definitely not, right? We have the maps, then we use those kind of shortest path, graph kind of algorithms to solve that. Then of course, data science can add value on top of that. So just want to say that not all problems are data science problems. They are like, some are fundamental like engineering or computer science kind of problems.
Right, that's interesting. Yeah, I think a lot of people who does not know artificial intelligence, right? The media calls it that artificial intelligence. They're depicted in Hollywood. They think that this is like wizardry or magic that can solve a lot of our problems. Maybe from Mr. Steven, who deals a lot with in the health industry, I believe. Do you think there are some misconceptions about data science that happens in your industry or in general your experience?
Right. I think there's like two things that I would like to mention. First, that when people mention about like artificial intelligence, it's some kind of like some terrors, right? So I think like one thing that I want to highlight is like that we're trying to guess the future, not predicting 100% of the future. I think that's one of the big misconception, right? Let's say like if you mentioned that okay, you might need to do some kind of like health check because you might have some kind of potential. Like people take it kind of okay. The machine tell us that I have this disease, right? Which is very problematic on its own, right? Because like we're just trying to guess it, right? It's never been 100% of prediction. I think no one can claim that the machine make 100% prediction through all of the time, right? So I think that's number one. And I think the second is like machine learning can really solve a problem that you don't define. I think that's that because like sometimes people just hope like I think Mr. Dean mentioned about this before, like I have a bunch of data, solve all of my problem, right? It doesn't work that way. You need to formulate the problems. Like it just doesn't automatically just solve all of the problem by its own. Yeah, I think that's from my side.
Yeah, that's actually interesting because actually one of my friend, he came from a pharmacy or medical background. I showed him a video in YouTube regarding AI with Robert Downey Jr. If anyone have watched it before, and he told me like, can data science replace me basically as a professional? And I think that's a very interesting topic when people are starting to question whether they can be replaceable by robots, right? Maybe from Mr. Dean in Google, we have a lot of innovations, and even in that video, we see that Google does not only deal with search engine, but there are a lot of research that are using data science in the field, in different field, basically. What do you think, Mr. Dean? What can't data science solve?
I think in Google, while we try to automate a lot of things, we kind of intentionally make a lot of bugs in that so that we don't get it replaced by the automation created. Jokes aside, so actually in McKinsey, there was a report that shows industry ranking which industry will be impacted by artificial intelligence the most and which would be impacted by artificial intelligence the least. And the least impacted industry is education. So there's no way people can use data science to know how to teach a child simple stuff. Even artificial intelligence wouldn't pick up the way that we can educate a child. So I think that's something that data science, artificial intelligence can hardly replace. But that the insight of that is that the more human side the industry is or the business is, the more difficult data science can actually capture that. The more repetition or pattern in that industry, the easier data science can pick these things up. So we can say education is one industry relying heavily on communication, on empathy, on understanding of people. So that is something data science cannot really replace. And there are other things that hugely depend on human execution. Like I said, when I worked for SAP, we helped the German soccer team win the World Cup in 2014. I believe 4 years later, the model, of course, they did it without me, but the model must be much, much better than 4 years ago. And I don't think the German football team will actually throw the model away. Actually, I watched the World Cup. I see they still use the iPad pointing something to the coach. So they definitely are using the second or even 10th version of the model, but they get eliminated in the group stage. So because it comes down to how people play on the fields or how people execute about it. So all these kind of things related to the human side of things, data science can't do. Data science can be a decision support, can be one data point that people consider, but the execution part, we rely on smart people to use it.
Yes, yes, I agree. Especially in Bukit Vista, we also have operationals, right? We in the business intelligence team, we kind of like look at the data and try to suggest people on what to do. But again, people have unreplaceable skills such as hospitality. Maybe in the future it could be replicated, but also I don't know. But yeah, can anyone confirm that Mr. Robert isn't back yet from Mr. Jing?
I don't see him back actually in the
Yes.
yes.
Unfortunately, I believe there might be
Get
connection.
him back.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there might be connection issue with Mr. Robert, but yeah, I think that's it. I think for the questions. Yes, and that's it for the questions. Thank you very much to all the speakers, and thank you very much to all the audience. I hope that we can learn a lot from all the answers, and you get to hear what you always wanted to hear, basically, from our discussions. And I guess that's it from me. My name is Fidiscu, and I'll bring it back to Mr. Jing as the host.
Thank you very much, Vidi, and thank you to our panelists this evening for spending this quality time to learn so much about where data science can be. And I hope we've satiated curiosity about what the applications are like in real life. This is just a quick plug. I'll bring my CTO, Bayu, into the discussion as well. We are open for remote internships at the moment, and we're seeking smart people who can help solve some of our problems. I'm going to turn the floor over to Bayu, coming to us from Jimbaran here. Bayu, why don't we turn it over to you, and you can tell us what kind of people we're looking for at the moment.
Okay, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Jing. So basically, we are excited to have smart people joining our company and see firsthand for your experience how we actually implement technology into real industry. Small startup. We are nothing like the company that this speaker are having now, but what we are trying to do is how we try to make our make this small startup into a bigger startup and more successful startup. So the challenge that we are having here is that we always question how are this technology that we always talking every day are actually helping us, especially in hospitality industry. Hospitality industry is very, I think, very old industry and very traditional, but we believe that we can, technology can help with that. We can optimize that. We can serve a better experience for our guests, maybe, and even growing the actual business. So basically what we hope from this internship program is that you can come, have a look at our company, have a look at our problem, or point us what problem that actually we didn't see ourselves. And then you probably can come up with a solution with the knowledge that you have. And basically we can share the knowledge, we can share experience, and then even we are really open actually. Even interns, sometimes they come up with ideas and project, and then they execute their project, and they will measure their project whether their project is actually impactful or not. So this could be your opportunity to prove that, to implement what you have studied so far, and see if actually you can help companies or small companies or other people, or even people that are traveling to Bukit Vista to use your product, basically, or use the product that you created from your knowledge. So yeah, please join us. We have a lot of problems to solve, basically. We have interesting things to solve. I think me and Vidi is talking about using NLP to understand what actually people want when they send us a message. Hey, I want to travel to Bali. So we want to understand that. We have like 1,000 of messages. We want to make sure that whenever we answer them, it's a lovely answer. It's an answer that they want, or the answer that they need to help them decide on their traveling experience, basically. So yeah, please come join us.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Bayu, for the tip. And yeah, just for everyone who's joining, we have quite a lot of selection of internships available at the moment. looking for all types of people who are specialized in digital marketing, business development, front-end web, human resources, financial administration, UI, UX, business data science, and also internal tools. So there is a role for anybody who is curious and wants to help us really think about how to actually integrate this idea of applying data science to hospitality, which would be actually quite magical if you could fuse one of the latest industries to one of the oldest industries. Moving on to the next slide, this is the part where I'd like to ask for feedback. Shaylin, if we can, we'll share the bit.ly link out on the chat, and please take just a second to kind of give your thoughts on this. Data science is, I think, still a very frontier topic, and of course it's not for everybody, but I think it makes makes me proud to be here tonight with everybody who's sharing this moment with an incredible, some of the best minds, I think, that have been so generous to share their wisdom and their experience with us. So I want to celebrate that. But of course, there's always things that we can do better. And we need your data right now so that we can figure out how to improve this, this experience for future attendees and perhaps speakers here at BVE Talk. So while I let everyone fill out that survey, I'll go on to the next slide, which is we have more BVE Talks, of course. We want to continue this beautiful tradition of sharing, of being able to understand different clubs and different missions and how the experts in their industry are doing their particular magical roles. So check out our page. We have a BVE Talk webpage where you can sign up to be our next speaker. And to the next page, next slide. Right, so going right into the next talk, we will have BVE Talk 7 on October 28th, later on this month, where we'll go into the topic of actually the power of digital marketing. We got speakers again from GoJek and Traveloka this time. So these are two people who lead the online marketing programs at both GoJek and Traveloka to explain to us how digital marketing works. And I hope that can be an interesting topic for anybody who's an entrepreneur or a student or interested in this particular field. And going on a little bit into the future, we're planning our next BVE Talk 8, which is on November 12th, and this will be on data science again. We'll talk more about how data science makes the world a better place and what are some of the applications that have improved the consumer experience and perhaps the your own lives as students, in fact. Okay, hopefully take some time to fill out the survey. That's pretty much it at this moment. We've kind of concluded right on time, just a little bit, minute over time. I'll stay in the huddle in case anybody wants to just kind of chill out and relax. I'll probably decompress with some of the speakers, but for the audience members, whoever wants to just kind of hang out and just have a kind of like a post meetup chat with us, feel free to remain. If you have something else that you've got to do, I totally understand. It's almost 9:30 here in Bali at the moment, and I appreciate the team. I want to say thank you to our speakers first. Thank you, Dean, for coming from Google, Stephen from BitHealth, Xiaohong from GoJek, and Robert, welcome back from Bukalapak. Thank you so much for once again being so generous with your time and sharing this wisdom with Bukit Vista and DSC and our audience tonight. And I also want to thank the Bukit Vista team for helping to organize this incredible event, to Shaylin for being there every step of the way, making sure that we got all the logistics right, and being here this evening. Vidi for moderating the event and coming up with a very stimulating conversation and juggling feelings of nervousness with also opportunity and curiosity. I think that was incredible to watch that happen. And to the DSC team at UI and also at UGM for their participation and also co-hosting this event with Bukit Vista this evening. Okay, thank you, Bayu, for coming in and also speaking about some of the technical programs that we're having and some of the challenges. And that's officially it. That's a wrap. So we'll wrap it up. If you want to remain, we'll just kind of hang here for a moment if anybody wants to talk to us. Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, and have a great evening. Woo. Okay. All right. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. First, to any of the panelists, did any of you guys how did you guys feel during the talk?
Yeah.
Stephen, how was this?
It was great. I mean, it's quite nice for speaking with someone from Google and GoJek. It is very nice. It's not every day you see someone from there. So yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully this is a good opportunity. You guys can hang out, like, and create like a little data science like pub club afterwards, and you guys have connected. So what about Dean? How does this compare to other events that you've been to, and do you have any feedback for us? In fact, because